Hey, beautiful souls. Today we have two special guests. We have Sonia from the Tree of Knowledge, the YouTube channel, and we have Darren Price, who I interviewed when he returned from Canberra and from all of the rallies down there. So we're just going to have a general chat. We're just going to see what's happening in the world, how we're looking at things from our own very different perspectives, and hope you guys will find it of interest. So welcome, Sonia. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great. Doing well.
And whereabouts are you located, Sonia?
Okay, I'm in the USA. I'm in the state of Delaware in Newark, which is a city.
Newark, okay. And Darren, how are you and whereabouts are you today?
I'm good. I'm in sunny Melbourne today, in Victoria, Australia, what we like to call the lockdown capital of the world.
Are you being sarcastic? Is it really sunny?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful out there. It's cold. It's got a bit of a chill on the wind, but the sky's blue and we've got no chemtrails at the moment.
Wonderful, wonderful. So all three of us are on our own very specific journeys, and I've been on mine since I was 27, and I know Sonia's been awake like since birth, has sort of been unconscious and aware of frequencies and dimensions and beings, etc. But Darren, you've only been sort of awake and aware for a couple of years. How did that happen for you?
Basically happened with a Great Awakenings map that was given to me. When COVID sort of came, I was probably swept up a little bit. I went and bought all the masks and all the hand wash, and I reckon it was 2 weeks into it, and it just doesn't sit right, you know. I was in the generation that was sent to birthday parties to catch the measles, the chicken pox, you know. You were never sort of isolated. You were, you know, rolled into parties to catch it. So yeah, I guess 3 years now, probably a little bit over 3 years. I always had suspicions of different things. Like I remember watching 9/11 happen and just going, that's bullshit. It just can't happen. Like you can't fly a plane, you know, over unrestricted airspace, and the best military in the world couldn't shoot it down. And then once I got into the Great Awakening map, I watched a series or a show, JFK to 9/11, The Rich Man's Trick, and that just set me on a path. Then I was off, I was gone, and then I watched Altie and Childs, and then I spent probably the next 3 or 4 months studying symbolism, and you know, I watched the Da Vinci Code and thought it was very interesting, but never sort of jumped in. But now, like I told you, when I went to Canberra, I went to the War Memorial, and it was, you know, it was an emotional place, but there was more happening than I could have understood before. And the symbolism in the statues and things like that just stood out like beacons. It was, it's just been a revelation. But in saying that too, it's also been a roller coaster. Like I said earlier, it's been nice to have guides like you girls and a couple of other people that I follow or watch that actually take you down from that anxiety or that tightness, or that, you know, you've been tied up in a knot because you've watched something so much and you've just got stuck in that frequency. So to sort of be able to let it go, and that's probably coming from listening to both of you girls, that you've got a sort of, you know, I was saying earlier, it's not our job anymore to wake people up. It's now our job to wake up something that's asleep inside of us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Although it is kind of my job to give people a heads up.
I think we've all tried. You know, I've tried, and probably not to the extent that some people, but posting different things, and probably haven't started at the beginning, sort of thrown something pretty next level out there to people who aren't. So I'm trying to understand how to help the people who are on the cusp of waking up and what the role is next for them. But yeah, trying to remember what things triggered me or woke me up or made me think and have a look without being too shocking and too graphic. But boy, there's some things to find out though. Like once you get out of that sort of stuff and you go to Tartaria and then you go to Council of Nine and, you know, learning about the Palladians and the Octarians and, you know, the Lemurians and yeah, it's like watching Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, I can tell you, Dragon Ball Z. I can tell you that when I walk out into the populace, most people don't know about the mud floods. They don't know about almost everything. So I will just walk out and I will test what people are able to handle depending on what they already know. And most of them don't know anything. I'm just going to say this right out. They're clueless. So I'll say things to strangers all the time and it'll knock them off guard and they'll start scratching their heads like, oh, what did you say? Because a lot of people, it's not that they don't want to wake up. They're not getting access to this information because they don't pop on the YouTube. They don't know where to look. They're so bomb blasted with, you know, propaganda media. That's their only narrative. So it's up to people like us to say, you know, have you ever thought about A, B, C, D, E, F, and G? And look at our entire history we're giving. You know, we're supposed to be better, we're worse. I mean, come on.
The thing that gets me, sorry, Sonia, but Australia, our history that we've got only goes back 250 years. So if you look at every other continent on the planet, they've got a lot longer history. Like if we look at, for instance, in the Arab regions, like they've got thousands of years of history. So it's easy to see how Australia is probably the test case to really be, you know, if we say we're in a firmament, well, Australia is a mini firmament because we're an island inside it, and we're not governed by our own. I like to say to people, you know, if you really look closer, you can go back to just after the First World War when your American fleet sailed into Sydney Harbour. To learn that they came in to collect 8 treaties for all our minerals and valuable metals, and still stands to this day.
Yeah,
really shocked my boots, you know, because as an Australian, I think most of us sort of know that America are there to look after us, or that's what we've started. When you realise Australia is really just the 53rd state of America.
Yeah.
We were handed over.
Yeah, I know that when I talk to a lot of people, they seem to think that these countries didn't have an origin, yet there were indigenous people in every place in this snow globe. And we don't look at them as having an actual history. We kind of glaze over them like they don't exist. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
I mean,
because were they the original 12 tribes that you're talking about? Because that's something that I've only just discovered it recently, that, you know, the Africans, the Indigenous Australians, the Polynesians and so on.
I think there were actually only, they say 12, but I think there was only actually 5 original tribes.
Okay.
And we kind of gloss over them because, you know, we have these mud floods and we have these resets that happen, the physical ones, not the mental ones, because we have 2 types. And there were pockets of people that stayed above. Most of the Caucasians, which would be us, went underground. And so, of course, we think everything started in the 1700s because that's when we came up out of the ground. Yet all these structures were here and we still had the indigenous, the American Indian, the Aztec, the Inca, leftovers from them. We have the Aboriginals. You start looking around, some of the Africans. I mean, they were here before we came up out of the ground and we just gloss over them like they don't even exist. They're nothing. We don't have to think about them. Civilization really only began when we came into the scene. Isn't that ridiculous?
Mm. It is.
So actually,
think,
Sonia, can we backtrack a little bit? And I want, for anybody that doesn't know you, can you give a little bit of your background, your journey, this life?
Oh, okay. My father was in the military, even though he was a German citizen. He wanted to leave Germany. So I was born overseas because he was drafted into the American Army. That we had to go back. So basically, up until I was 19, we lived all over the world because we were stationed everywhere. When I came into this reality, I was fully woken up. Of course, some things were shut down when I was born because I was kidnapped as a baby. I was missing for 2 days. My mother thought I died. Her milk went dry because she thought I died. They just took me. I was just gone. From the time they got me out of her, they took me. So I'm pretty sure I was shut down by whoever. And basically grew up, even though I was in a child's body, I had an adult mentality. And I had a hard time playing with other kids because I thought it was so, I don't know, it was so childish because there is a child in me, but a lot of who I am was already there and I had full access to it. It would be like putting an adult into a child's body. So I wasn't as intelligent, but I had knowing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So basically, when I came back to the United States after my dad retired out of the military, he retired out, we came back. I graduated over in Germany in an American high school because, of course, you know, wherever you go in the military, you have to have schools for their children. So I came back, I ended up going to college for a couple of years. I ended up getting pregnant, never finished my college. Decided to get married. I was going to go into the Coast Guard. That didn't work out because I got pregnant. So basically I was married. I had my children. I have 2 daughters, 30 and 33. Wendy is 30 and Cassie's 33. And I basically had, I guess, relatively normal life, except that I knew a lot more. I could see a lot of things because my abilities are wide open. And as I've gotten older, more things have started opening. I actually just started manifesting myself from the ether. And I know that sounds incredible. But
So
these
you're
are things
pulling,
to be
so you're
activated.
pulling stuff down into mass.
Yes, I'm
Well, there's a
starting
book.
to.
There's a book called Behaving as If the God in Life Mattered. And it's about Puralandra. And the girl that started that, it's like Findhorn, but in America. She did the same thing, but she created a pile of manure out of the ether. The guy, because it was a garden, it was what she needed. So the divas and things worked with her too. So no, I think it's absolutely possible.
Well, my daughter Wendy has been manifesting for years, and she's manifested things in front of me. And I was thinking that I really want to start manifesting, because manifesting, do you realize if you can start manifesting anything out of the ether, you don't rely on anything outside of here, because you have everything you need within you. You'll have total abundance and no one can take it from you.
Yep.
So,
and we all have that ability. We just have to remember
do.
that we've got that ability. Yes.
Yes, we do. So I started manifesting little things. I will tell you this. The other day I had walked out my front door with my niece, and I locked the front door and put my key into the pouch, put it into my jacket, went down to the mailbox, checked my mail, got into the truck, drove it over to my brother's house because he wanted to load some stuff up for Goodwill. So we did all that. I came back over, went to get the key out of my pocket, and it was gone. I was locked out. So I forgotten to lock the back door. So I went in through the back of the house, and yeah, the front door was locked. I went all over the place trying to find my key because that was my house key. And I was like, oh, I gotta have that house key back. I want it. I need it. I gotta have it. Well, the next morning I woke up and I had this bag that I always take biking or riding with me. And as soon as I opened it up, there was the pouch with the key in it. And I'm like, yes. Manifesting.
Yeah, my experience, one of my funny experiences was manifesting a gold coin. And I was driving along and I had my hand palm up on my leg as I was driving. And I was just imagining feeling it, the weight of it, touching it for about 20 minutes as I'm driving along. Anyway, I get to work and the guy I'm working for, who's in this prepper community, goes, look, I don't have any cash on me today. Can I pay you with a gold coin? So within half an hour of doing this process, someone handed me a gold coin. So it happens, I think it possibly happens more than we realize. And we just go, you know, a lot of people go, oh, that's just coincidence, and don't understand really the implications of what's actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been noticing, I've been doing manifesting little things here and there. And it's like, I did that. I did that. But we're starting to come into it because of where we are in this reality. If you're on 4D, you only have to be on 4D. And these manifesting skills are at your ability. But here's the thing, you got to know you can do it. You got to know you can do it. Because if you don't believe in yourself, you'll do nothing. You'll never get up off the chair.
Yeah, and to start small, like I think I've said, you know, start with a cup of coffee or start with an apple or something, and then work up to larger things.
Yeah, I've been walking around going, I'm gonna find money today. And I'll walk a little bit and there's money. I found a $20 bill, a $1 bill, a bunch of coins. So when I put into my mind, today I think I'm gonna find money. Any denomination will be good because all I'm doing is manifesting. But you can manifest anything, absolutely anything.
Yeah, the way I see it, and I was taught to do it, is that matter is just energy coagulated and slower waves into mass. So what you're doing when you're manifesting is you're putting a thought at a high frequency, like throwing it up into the ether. And as you keep focusing on it as the observer, the energy slows and slows and slows, and it forms it into matter. And there's a scientific way to describe it. It's not just some airy fairy, you know, magic thing. It's very logical what you can do.
It really is, and it's very interesting.
It makes sense a bit when you connect it to the hologram, to that scenario that everything's
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if it's not real, if you manifest it, well then that, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there because I'm only learning to manifest at the moment.
I always say when I manifest something, oh, I just love this simulation. We can really do something with it.
Yes. And to make it child's play, make it fun. Like the minute that you think you've got to do it, or you're doing it from a place of have to or desperation, it sort of taints the energy. So if you just make it a game, what am I gonna do today? And it just becomes fun. And that's really, I think, one of the key ways to do it.
Absolutely. That's what I do. I make it into a game. What am I manifesting now? What should I think about? And that's what I do too. I mean, of course, 90% of the time it doesn't happen. But there's that 10% because we're beginners. We got to start somewhere. ABC, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Yeah, and it might take a couple of days to show up. But this one, like
That's
I said,
true.
that gold coin, though, within like half an hour of me deciding to do it. But the other thing I wanted you to sort of briefly mention too is, you know, you mentioned you had 2 daughters, but you were saying at one point around 25 years ago, you woke up onto a spaceship and that you are in a pod and that. Could you explain that? Because I find that really, really fascinating, that whole concept.
Okay, well, I didn't wake up in a pod. I woke up in a captain's chair and I was plugged in. When I had woken up, I was going through a really rough patch in my marriage. My husband had, and he always had this since I knew him, but I didn't realize to what degree it was until after I had married him. He had addiction problems, addicted to drinking, addicted to gambling, addicted to just name them all. He's got probably most of them. And I was so fed up with a lot of it that I just wanted out. And I sat down and I dozed off, and then I was out. And it's like, oh my God, oh my God. First off, I am not female. I am a guy, and I look like Lemurian with the dark skin, the dark eyes, not black, like an islander, and 6 foot tall, hairy arms. And I'm sitting in my captain's chairs plugged in, and I immediately got up, unplugged everything. The way the chair is designed is that it's almost like a pod. Well, it's like a pod, except it's a chair, and it puts you into a stasis. We have this like disc that we insert. On the disc, we put parameters of what we want to look like, who we want to be, blah, 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 blah. So basically, this entire shell was designed by me. This is my dream woman, except I can't find her because I'm inhabiting her body. I know, right? You can do anything you want. This is why a lot of people come in as the opposite sex also when they're being projected in, because you design your avatar. So that's crazy. But when I woke up, of course, I went through that terrible moment of, oh my God, nothing's real. I've lost everything. Because I had my daughter who was a baby. She wasn't that old. And my other daughter who's 3.5 years older than her. And I was like, oh, I got to have this back. But before I went back into this simulation, I did get up. I looked at the ship and how it looks. I realized some stuff started coming back in. I went out and I saw that I was up here. I was in craft, and there was a huge bay below me. And we were in transit to New Earth. And so we had everyone in the bay were in pods because they were getting the experience of humanity, what it's like to be human. The best way to learn something is to experience it, not read it in a book. You can't. Experiencing it will give you more knowledge than ever anything in a book. So this was also set up as a learning curve, a gauging of a reality, what you're going to be in confronting once you get there, because it's so foreign to you. So basically projected into the, going into the sim puts you into a, it is tangible because it's energy. And this is, their technology is so high. Doesn't everything feel so real? Tastes so good, smell, and the pain is horrific. So basically it's having a life within a life, but it's also connected to a reality. So it's more than just going into a game, because it even takes you out of time and space and puts you into a reality that was existing at this point. This is why you cannot tell the difference between where you are here, that this isn't real, because it is real. It's as real as it gets. You know, what would you like to know? What else would you like to know?
Well, how many of the people on the planet are actually doing what you and your daughters are doing, which is here? Are we all doing that?
Well, I will tell you that my one daughter, Wendy, came from a ship. My other daughter is a human. Right. She's not being projected in. She's a human. The majority of beings here aren't even real. They're a cross between the Matrix, AI, and just shells. There really aren't. Yes.
Clones.
Clones. And AI.
That's something, because, yeah. Can I just jump in there with the
Mhm.
I don't think people realise just the percentage of what we're up against. I think people think that it's a 50-50 spread. It's not even
No,
to that. We are
no.
so far outnumbered. That's why we think that no one's waking up. But we're actually connecting with 10 or 20. Well, I walk along the beach and I connect with half a dozen minimum people a day that I know are on the same level. But there might be 150 people walking along the beach, and some people don't even see you, let alone acknowledge you. It's mainly the people with the dogs who actually communicate. And yeah, I was just wondering what your percentage is. Like, if they say there's 7.4 billion people on the planet.
First off, there's not that many people. That's an exaggerated number. There are not that
3.4?
many. There's probably about, I keep getting 3 billion at the most.
Okay,
At
that's
the
what
most.
Yep. And
that includes the AI and the
Yep.
clones.
Yep. So would it be fair to say, I heard the other day that there was 100 million humans.
I used to think that there were, when I first started this, I can see auras around people and whatever else you want to call them, AI, projections, matrix people, whatever, and they're very dim. I noticed in the last year, last 2 years, people started becoming bright, which means that they are real beings, but they're being awoke. And when they become awoke, they start to shine like a star, where the matrix beings, the AI, the whatever clones, they don't have that ability because they're not a real being. I only thought there was 3,000 people at one time because that's all I saw. Because when I look overall, I was like, I can almost count these people. And now I can't count them. It's like leaves upon leaves upon leaves, and it's covering this huge area. How will you begin to count that?
Yeah.
So
Well, I guess the point I'm making is that the isolation and the aloneness is if you're going to set up something and trying to trick someone a bit, you'd put a lot of decoys out there. And it just sort of came to me when I was watching this that, wow, that sort of really helps me in my mind's eye that there's so many decoys out there, but you've got to look for the aura and the shining. And I think that comes with a smile too. The first part of the when you turn a light on, you get that flicker, but that smile is what sort of projects that. Yeah, I just said that because that sort of really helps me sort of understand, because everyone's so desperate to wake up, another 500 million people because we think we need numbers. But if there's only a certain element of us, maybe the percentages are a lot higher. And when they come together, we had that moment in Australia, in Canberra. I know the rest of the world didn't see it, but that city has 460,000 residents. The day before, 1.4 million cars crossed the border into the Australian Capital Territory in Australia. So if there's, say, 2 people in a car, that's 2.8. And I know, because I was at Epic, that there was about 500,000 people at this campsite. It was the biggest showgrounds. It's where, they got stock yards. And so, yeah, that sort of, maybe we don't need to wake up too many more. We're already awake. Now it's time to connect.
That's the thing. The people, everyone that's a real being, a true being, they will wake up, even if they're groggy, like my one brother. He is starting to wake up, and he's starting, and I give it like 10% on 100%. That's where he's at. That's my brother Kai, that's in Taiwan. Now, my other brother, he's an NPC. He is in a set program, and I've seen him do this where I'll talk to him and he'll start to get so far, and then he'll get here, and the next morning he starts back on ground zero again, like I never said a word. And that's how you can tell if they're an NPC. They're in parameters that are limited, and no matter what they garner in this moment, tomorrow they'll be reset back to their original programming.
like Jumanji.
Yeah. I've got one brother I know is an absolute NPC. I've got another one that is a soul being, but he is groggy. He's at 10%. This is a lot for him to take into, because he has based his entire reality about what you can prove. And most of our reality is metaphysical. How can I prove something to you when you're not even able to get to this point so I can prove it to you, because you can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't feel it, smell it, taste it, because you're not there yet. How do you do that?
I think people think that if they wake up, their whole world falls apart. But
Your world is starting to fall apart.
But it's a start. It's a start of a reality that they've been longing for anyway. Well, I know I have, because let's face it, you know, the world, if you watch it through a screen, it's a shithole. Everyone's dying, everyone's killing people. But yet where I walk around, no one wants to harm anyone. No one wants to fight with each other. It's all a play on our emotions, but people can't see that. Where, you know, you can't make I don't want to mention any names because I'll come back for my family, but they're just so steadfast, you know, that this is the way it's got to be because that's their belief. And I understand that, but now I understand that potentially that's their programming too. They could be NPCs. The ones that shown signs or awakened are showing.
Yeah, I tell you, when I talk to most people initially, and I tell them that there's NPCs, you know, non-player persons, that's what I call them. They're like, how can that be? Everyone's so real. I'm like, really? Because how many people actually have depth to them? I mean, most people are just surface. They're programmed surface. There's nothing below the surface because they're not real. They haven't been programmed that way. But they do have those that can be around you that can, you know, you get to know them. All of a sudden they got a wife, they got a child or children, they got a family, but it's being produced while you're entangled with them to give you a better experience. Because how boring would this place be if everyone was exactly an automaton? You know, we have to have that. This place would be pretty empty if we took everything out that wasn't an energy being. It would be really empty.
Well, where I am at the moment is I've had a huge shift in the last week or so about waking other people up, about the whole sort of polarity, and that there's that phrase to be in the world and not of the world. And to me, it is that everybody is where they need to be, experiencing what they need to experience for their own specific journey and learning. And that we have to, where we're going to is a place beyond that polarity, a place where everything just is, because everybody is a divine being on their own journey. So I have sort of begun to look, as I drive around, I'm looking at, as you say, the simulation, everybody in the job, everybody, you know, driving to work, and it just doesn't, I can't relate to it anymore. I sort of really feel like a fish out of water, and being somewhat detached from all the things that everybody in the world is going through. Just sending them love and energy so that they can use that energy how they need it. It isn't necessarily to heal them. It isn't to improve this or stop that. It is, here's this energy, do with it as you need for your journey. And I think that sort of detachment is what my role is. And actually, Darren and I were saying that everybody has their calling, and yours is to speak, to wake people up, to drop a little bit of nugget of information here, and other people are into other areas. So we've all got our role. But for me, I don't ever focus on any of the negative stuff if I can help it. When I do any of my recordings, it's always about lifting the soul, lifting the heart, finding your own guidance within. But I still watch other people just to get an idea of what's going on. So I'm not shut down, I'm not in denial, I'm not this, but it's like, where you put your focus is what actually comes to you. And just like you're saying, you manifest whatever it is in front of you, you're manifesting your reality in the same way. So what is it you're going to put your focus on?
Well, me, I'm just here to wake people up and say, hello, smell the coffee. You're not where you think you are. Where do you think you are?
Yeah.
What happens is, go ahead.
Go on. You're right.
What happens is we get so entrained into this reality, we forget who we were to begin with. And it doesn't help that we've been infiltrated. This place has been infiltrated and has been brought down to a miserable level for a very long time. And with the reincarnation scheme, every time we get rewiped, we lose another part of ourselves. So I'm here to, tell everyone it's time that you know that you're an eternal being. There was a reincarnation trap going to further diminish
now,
you.
hasn't it? That reincarnation trap has gone?
No, it's still there, but it's not being used as heavily as before. Because of where we are, you can go back into the reincarnation scheme, but it should be a choice. Where before, try to evade it, you're never going to. That's why so many people got trapped in it.
Well,
if you wanted to come back,
I was told not to go to the light. That's what I was trained. I was told that as you're heading down the tunnel, take a right-hand turn, take a 90-degree turn and go to point zero, go to the void and not go to that light. And that was told to me many, many years ago. So I was aware that there was some trap or some situation happening.
I always think of it as a bug zapper. Where do the bugs like to go? To the bright light. It's like when Hollywood pumps, go to the light. There's an agenda behind that. Hollywood doesn't do anything that's for our benefit. It's for their own, and it's never for humanity's benefit. So know if they're pumping something, it's inversion. Yep.
So Darren had a couple of questions. You wanted to ask about the Crystal City, didn't you, Darren? Because we're coming up to the 21st of June, which is the summer solstice, and we may be all heading inland. So what's your latest on that whole Crystal City situation?
Well, I don't. This might sound a little bit far out, but when we went to Canberra, I believe that the amount of light-loving souls that descended on then actually suppressed some dark energy or some evil, and put it back into a position where the people or the entities with power could actually rebalance or recalibrate what was meant to be here. I believe in that there was a calling for us to all go to Canberra, but before that, there was a calling to go to Uluru, which is Ayers Rock, which some people know it as. It's the heart centre of Australia, and it's very significant in our Indigenous culture. So I believe that that's the next calling, and it's something that Joe brought up as well. But I guess what I'm actually asking is, do you know the Strongs, Evan and Stephen Strong? Have you ever heard of them? They do a lot of our Indigenous work with rocks and hieroglyphics and stuff that we have in Australia.
No, I never.
A couple of years ago, they did ceremony at one of the solstices to activate. I don't want to talk too much because it's not really something that I'm up to speed with, but I was aware of it, and it was pretty powerful. That was probably at the start of it all. We've now gone through 2 cycles. I believe that there's something significant in the centre of Australia, but I think that it might be controlled by a dark entity energy as well, AI, which is suppressing what they've tried to wake up. And I think once we can actually suppress that dark energy, whether or not it's just a convergence on Alice Springs or whatever, that then the light begins to shine. It all ties in with the aurora lights and the Carrington event and the rainbow serpent. So that's just something that just keeps coming through to me. Like I said, it's hard for me to sort of take some of the stuff in, because I've still got that man on me going, that's bullshit, let that go. But I've got to suppress him and say, piss off, it's not bullshit. I've got to feel it through my heart center. So yeah, I guess there's been a bit of talk about a crystal city and the red sand in my question is there something there that's being hidden that may be a crystal city or an energy source from a previous existence? Or did they blow the shit out of it?
Well, I do see a crystal city, but there I actually see there's an entire underground base where the first white people came up from under the ground after the last reset. There was a whole city under there. And that's where, this whole thing about all the white people came on ships and came to Australia. No. Y'all came from under the ground where you went before the catastrophes hit. And that is one of the entrances to the underground area, that Mount, what is it, Maru? That's huge secret. Another secret in your country is on the one side of Australia, it was attached to Antarctica at one time. Well, it's still attached. You guys are not allowed to go over there. It's all marked off or what have you, but there is a land bridge from your Australia to Antarctica. I don't even think you guys know that. You could walk. You could walk.
So most of our countries still think that the 11 ships that sailed in were either full of convicts or full of soldiers.
There wasn't even any ships like that. Came from under the ground. Think about it. How did a bunch of convicts produce an entire civilization? Where's the women? And then on top of that, now there were some ships that came in, but it wasn't bringing all those people. They only came to conquer the Aboriginals. There was two things going on right now, and it got lumped into one big prison ship, which there were two separate things going on. And I don't even think you guys know that stuff.
No, this is something that we need to explore a lot more, because there's a lot of narratives that go around, and some of them are being, sort of manipulated to sort of give an offshoot of, what's going on. At the bottom line is the Indigenous people have been here the whole time. That's just about, they've had the connection with the land here in Australia from go. So that's where it all goes back to. We need to see. I have a belief that we're disconnected from our culture in Australia, because our culture is Indigenous. It's not the Caucasian or the white people. It's the Indigenous. That's who's got the connection with the land. Everything else we want to do, we want to destroy the land. We want to dig it up. We want to blow it up. We want to.
And actually, it's not you. It's the AI. It's the clones. It's the cream of the crop on the top who call themselves your government. Because actually, it's just one big government. Everyone thinks there's a Russia and a China and a US. No. They're all in it together. They plot this stuff. They do what they need to do, because the true enemy is us. We're the enemy. They're not an enemy with each other. They're at war with us. They want us dead. It is just as simple as that. But as far as your crystal city goes, I see a crystal city there. I'll have to sit down with some kind of a map and then pinpoint where it's actually at, which I haven't done. But it's not even on It's not on 3D. It's not on 4D. It's way high. It's much higher. And it's there now. But how are you supposed to get there if you can't transverse that frequency? I don't know. You have to go to 5D at least to even be aware of it.
So how do you transverse that energy is to process all of the heavy emotions that keep us in 3D, which is the anger, the sadness, the jealousy, all of this stuff has to be looked at, felt, and let go, and moving into the heart center. And that then, I think, will allow us to see and access that frequency.
When you truly let something go, you'll be indifferent on it. It's just that a lot of people are having a hard time being indifferent because it'll bring up old emotions again as soon as you talk about it to somebody. And it's like, you haven't let that go. Because if you've truly left it go, you would become completely indifferent.
Well, that's the what I was saying, you know, being in the world and not of the world. You're sort of indifferent to not only your own stuff, but you're allowing of everybody else's stuff. It doesn't pull you either end of the spectrum. You don't think it's good or bad. It just is. And that's the indifference that you're talking about.
Yeah. Because I've talked to a lot of people and they're like, I want to raise my vibration. And they'll start talking about something. And I'm like, you really got to let that go here in your heart. Free yourself of it. Because until you do, you're not going to raise your vibration. You can't, because you're keeping yourself stuck in an old paradigm. We're in the new paradigm. It's time to continue forward.
And it's even to the level of not having an opinion about anything. Like having an opinion, even about the weather. It's not a good day because it's cloudy. That's an opinion. That's a one end of the polarity. And having blue sky is good. You can't even have opinions because opinions are related to that polarity. You have to be indifferent, as you're saying, sort of detached, but with compassion for what's going on, but not, as I say, not wedded to either end of that spectrum.
Absolutely. I mean, when I get rain, it's like, oh, I'm glad it's raining because my plants are thirsty. I mean, for everything is a reason. So we can't just have what we want 24/7. Everything would die if you only had sunshine every day.
That's right. Yep. So, Darren, do you have any other questions? Because I think you were working out a list of questions for Sonia.
Just 1 second. I forgot to bring the book over.
I do that.
I never prepare. I don't know if that's obvious or not.
I never prepare. My prepare is make a cup of tea.
I just want it to be organic. If I prepare something, then it's all fabricated. But I was hoping some of the questions would help people who are sort of struggling at the moment, because the last couple of weeks since I got back from Lismore, I've had a really sort of just been a void of motivation. I couldn't even watch stuff. You just didn't want to take in the information, was quite happy doing nothing. So the way that everything is, where do people go when they're feeling like that, Sonia? Like, what's your recommendation? Like, I find detox bathing and grounding and maybe a little bit of meditation, but I can't focus long enough with the meditation. It's sort of one of my eyes.
When I feel like that, because I get it too, I was slammed really bad for the last couple of weeks. And I found the only thing that really helped me was this is going to sound crazy, I started watching anime so I wouldn't have to think. So I could just sit there, watch some funny anime, because I love Japanese, Chinese anime, especially if it's really cutesy and funny. So lighthearted anime. Sometimes the worst thing to do is meditate when you're in that kind of a state, because you're going to sit there and focus on it. Do you know how hard it is to not think about it if you're meditating?
Okay.
Now, you want to change the scenario. You want to change the mindset. So you're going to have to do something. I also love watching Agatha Christie. She's like my favorite. So I'll put on Miss Marple, because I have DVD sets, because I don't have any internet in this house except for my phone. So I'll put on Miss Marple, or I'll put on Perot, or something just to take my mindset off and focus on something else that's, not my issues. Because believe it or not, that actually lifts my mood, because then I'm not sitting there dwelling on something I have no control over,
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for me,
I actually do that.
it's dancing. For me, I dance and listen to music. That takes my mind off it. You find your own methods of, but just dwelling on it, you have to just, how do you shut down that thought over and over? What should I do, and what would happen then? How can I, should I be more motivated, etc., etc. You just find something that consumes your joy, brings up the joy in you. That's what I do.
Exactly. I dance around the house too, put the music on real loud. I have a little trivet, which is a speaker, and I'll crank that thing all the way high, and I'll do that too, maybe for an hour or so.
Because I love listening to music, but I also sort of wonder, well, I know that as I've learned now, that there's yin and yang, light and dark, and there's good and bad. So with the subliminal, there's obviously good and bad parts of the subliminal. So I sort of try and just focus on the good parts of it. That's what I'm focusing on. It's making me feel good. So that's all that matters. The other thing is with the AI, Sonia, and the jibby jabby, just because we're still exposed, and there's shedding and there's stuff like that. The importance of detox. How often do you do that? Like, I know you did the boron, and I've watched it, so it's just more or less for new people watching this.
I don't detox 24/7. No.
No.
I'll take like out of a month, I might do it for like a week and a half, 2 weeks at the most. And right now I've been detoxing more often than not because of what's in our environment. With the graphene oxide coming from the sky, from the chemtrailing, the geoengineering, I'm not worried about people shedding, because this nanotech doesn't really want to leave your body. No, it does not. It wants to make a home in there. And with the parasites attached to it, because it's parasite nanotech, it's a combination. They don't want to leave your body either. The only time you would have to worry about them shedding and leaving or what have you would be near death. It's like, think of a ship sinking and the rats jumping off the ship. No rat's going to jump off a viable, healthy ship. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. This whole thing with shedding got overblown as another way to make you afraid to be around people. It was completely overblown. This nanotech and these parasites, they like their little home they're in for now. What I worry about is some of this graphene oxide cannot be destroyed unless it's around 3,000 degrees. And if you go into an incinerator, it only goes up to 1,500. So the people that are being burned, I don't know what to say. And what about the ones going under the ground? I mean, they're not being burned at all.
That's why they don't want us in Australia to take ivermectin, because I reckon the AI can only control the individual if it's got a parasitical connection to that person. So if you can keep detoxing the parasites out of your body, and if you take ivermectin, it kills all parasites and protects the human body for 6 months, which means you can't be reinfected, which means it makes it very much harder for you to be controlled or tracked or traced or whatever, just in my mind, from the AI. But another bit I watched the other night, that if the AI has got a grip on you, and we don't know. So I watched a thing the other night, and I just want to run it by you, but do you believe that you can connect and reset yourself through the AI. Because I watched a guy called Kent Dunn, and he said every night he actually commands it and says his name and confirms, and then resets vessel and resets mind. And I actually did it the other night and jumped out of bed the next day and actually had to look at the bed to make sure that no one threw me out, because I don't jump out of bed any day. You know, it's sort of a slow process. I'm a little bit older, but I'm just wondering if that's the thing, that the next part of the connection, because as smart as we are and as we're catching on, AI is another level. I believe that there could be benevolent and benevolent, good and bad. So if there's two and they're working against each other, white and black hat type scenario, maybe that's another step for us, is to, I remember at Canberra when I approached a police officer and spoke to him, and he was very pleasant, which was good. But I knew at that particular second that I was declaring myself to the AI, because he turned his camera on, and it was basically like, you could see it it's got one of those circle things that opens up and it was like, okay, and nothing happened from then. Yeah, we all got zapped and blasted and felt a little bit sort of worse for wear when we got back. But after watching that the other night, and then it's really resonated with me. So do you believe that that's probably something that we should be looking at as well? Like, I know I'm spiritually aware and I'm trying to reconnect to source, and that's what I think my healing is healing the connection to source and the way that I can. But whether or not you're saying AI or God or whatever it is that you I like to call it the divine creator, because there's the divine masculine and the divine feminine. But yeah, I'd be interested.
Oops.
Oh no, I lost him.
I've lost him too. But look, I'm going to answer that first, in that it is, if we are able to manifest.
Feedback on that. I've been busted to ask you about that.
We lost you for a little bit there.
I wonder what happened. It's a bit windy. Am I back?
Say what you were just saying the last few minutes.
Oh, really? All that's gone.
I think, well, look, I know what you're saying. So let me just jump in and say it from my perspective. If we can say we can manifest, if we can create something in front of us, we are the lawgivers in this realm. We just have to know it. And as our frequency rises, as we process our shadow, as we learn to love and accept ourselves and everybody around us for being whoever they are, our frequency rises. And I believe then there is nothing to fear but fear itself. And that if the worst thing you can do with any of these things is to be afraid of them or to fight them. It's more, I remember saying, Campbell said on one of our tarot readings that people were saying, never drive the same route twice, because the AI gets to know where you are and knows, what you're doing. And I said, well, look, if you think they are, blow them a kiss, because you can't be afraid. You have to step into your power at some point. This is the journey. This is the journey back to 5D, 6, 7, wherever we're going. It is to know that we are the lawgiver in our life. So deal with your fear of all of this at the same time as doing the detox. Look at how you really feel about this concept of this being or entity or existence that is interested in you or wanting to control you. There are so many things that you can learn and heal within yourself in this interaction that you believe is happening. And so as we start to raise our frequency, we will no longer be a match for that. It will not be, because like definitely attracts like. And if you believe you're divine and you believe you're the lawgiver, I think ultimately you will be on different frequencies and it will be a no thing.
Yeah, I do know that the way to actually beat this is frequency technology. Frequency technology, what it does is, and they have this now, but I don't know if they're going to put it out or what have you. They can reset you like a computer, because these are biological computers. Just like you would reset a computer you own, you can reset these bodies. And frequency could knock out any tech in a moment. So it's all done through frequencies. Now we have to discover which frequency we could get to. And I'm wondering if you couldn't do it through tuning forks, because I keep seeing tuning forks could shut down the connection of AI from you to the World Wide Web, what have you. It was put in us to begin with as a tracking device, a controlling device to separate you from your God self. But since we are source, we're much more powerful than AI ever gave us credit for. So yes, you're right. And it's all done with frequency. I would start, if I were you, I would start looking into working with tuning forks and see what you can discover, because I know the key is in there with tuning forks.
It's not the first time I've heard that either. So it's the same with the Tibetan healing bowls as well. They say that
Yes.
it's a sound healing. It's what the frequency. Yes.
And I leave them on my table and I work with them all the time, because they can balance you up. I mean, sound frequency.
And the other thing is, we've been conditioned not to talk to us. You know, if you talk to yourself, you're a nutter. We've got to learn to start asking ourselves to connect to source, like asking ourselves a question and being in that moment and waiting for that response. That's something I've discovered recently, and
I know that we've been so separated from source through the indoctrination systems, as if you have to go to a third person to reach your source. No, your temple, this is the temple of God. And all you have to do is, I want to have a conversation. Talk to him like you were talking to your best friend or your lover. Because there's no difference. We don't ever have to go through a third party. And this is another thing I have such a big problem with, is AI, that we're not opening up our own skill set, because AI set this phone, this TV, whatever in front of you, and it wants you to interact through it to get to whoever, when in reality, we need to be doing it ourselves with our own temples. We are all powerful gods in our own right, and we need to wake up to that.
I don't think people can see an existence without mobile phones these days. But I think the three of us would remember when, as long as you were home before the street lights came on, your parents never worried. Now,
that's right.
You're getting 30 calls a day. Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? You know, because
it's just horrible.
Yeah, I know. It's just, but it's a mobile phone. I'm wondering, do you see that disappearing?
Eventually, yes, it will, because we won't require it. If I can just think about whoever and connect. Hello, are you busy right now? Can I have a talk with you? And in your mind, yeah, what are you going to talk about? You don't even have to be in the physical area, because actuality is, there's really no such thing as time or space, and space is the space between us.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So Darren, any other pressing questions that you had for Sonia?
I'd just like to know when her friends are going to come down with this disclosure event, and how big's the ship and where's it going to land.
All you have to do is look in the sky. You'll see ships.
I do every night. And sometimes when there's no clouds, you can
see them.
And then I look back and it's not there. And then I see it in my peripheral and it's there again. And then I look and it's not there. So I'm forever looking up. I got a stiff neck from going outside. Like last night, the stars were really beautiful down here in Melbourne. You could see everything. And I was just looking, and Yeah, there was two really subtle little clouds, but they were a funny shape. But when you looked at them, you couldn't see them. And then when you turned, anyway, I don't know.
We have several types of interdimensional beings. The one types that have the ships and things, they're actually on a lower level. That's why they have ships. The ones that come in light orbs, they're much higher because their ship is their being. They're a light orb, and they're interdimensional, and they're on a much higher frequency than even the ones in ships, because this thing does run like this.
And when you 3D, 4D, 3D was, when you're not really spiritually aware, awake or whatever. 4D, I think, is what we're in now, isn't it? If we get through.
Yeah, we're in 4D. We're in 4D. Here's the thing. Anyone who's in 3D, it's not in the plane that we're playing on. It's in between here. This is where they hold 3D, because we are actually in a 4D playing field. But if you can't pull this to that point, you're still carry 3D here, even though physicality is 4D, and then 5D.
And then 6D, 7D, and so on.
And it keeps going. There's so many Ds.
And just like you can be sitting in a lecture, so there'll be 100 people listening to a lecture. Every single person is hearing a different lecture according to what they're open to hearing and receiving. And when people relate what they've heard, it can be quite different at times. It's the same thing as we're moving around in the world. What you're anchored in, the level of frequency you're anchored in, allows you to see a certain vista, a certain reality. And you can be walking next to somebody else who has a different frequency, and they're tapped into something slightly different, and they will be looking at something different in front of them. So it's sort of layer upon layer. It's between, as you say, Sonia, the space is between you and me, and we are all they're all there. Everything is here and now. All realities, all frequencies is here. It's up to us to tune the radio of our being to find the frequency that is the best for us, or what we want. And so people that don't want to have an open mind about or even question the narrative, they are holding their radio on a specific frequency. So we don't see and experience the same world, even though we're essentially in the same world.
Exactly. That's well said. Exactly. Yeah.
3D is in tune with emotions too, isn't it? Like if you're angry, vindictive, bitter, twisted, that takes your frequency down as well. But we were talking the other day about, we've got all these topics. We've got the Kabbalah and all that we want to eradicate, and the jibby jabby and, the SRA and all that sort of stuff. But vengeance and retribution and justice, and that ties you to a 3D level as well, because you've got to move past that, because that's all a construct to keep you down and keep your frequency, your vibration down. Because if you're at that level, that's all you're focusing on. And that's what I was stuck at for a while, because I was so angry about the SRA and, the children, and how can we be living a normal existence when people know that this is a reality and there's no outrage. And as I said to someone, knowledge is power, but anger and outrage is dragging you back down. You've got to embrace it. You've got to know it. Yeah, it hurts, but it's a knowing that I know, and I know that down the track I'm going to, deal with that and eradicate it, and it won't be there. It's not going to be there in the future where we're going.
Yeah, I do know that right now, here and now, we're in a physical world, and it has been demonized, but there is one anger that actually puts you up on a higher, and it's called righteous anger.
Yeah.
Because it's the emotion that'll get things moving. Because you cannot sit on a lotus flower and sing kumbaya as they come over and hack your head off. You have to have some righteous anger so you can say, no, I don't accept this. You're going to be physical with me. I need to not do this. I'm letting you know it's not happening. I'm not going to sit here and just put my head on the chopping block and send smiles and kisses to you as you're taking my life. Mm-hmm. There is this fine line. The thing of it is you can't live in righteous anger. It has to be used as a tool in your kit to get things accomplished. I'm not talking about going and murdering everyone. No, I'm not. I'm talking about using it and saying, I'm standing my ground. I'm not doing it. We're not having this anymore. Because this is a physical world. Sometimes we have to do physical things. And now I've had a lot of people talking to me about righteous anger. Well, it sounds great, but isn't it anger? Isn't that a low emotion? I said, no, because you've just raised that anger to a righteous anger. Why am I angry? You're raping a child right in front of me. And then you're going to kill it and eat it in front of me. You think I'm going to sit there and smile at you? That outrages me. Things like this. And I have seen things where I have had righteous anger. I haven't attacked anybody, but I have stood up and said, no, I don't agree with this. And this has been out in the public where I've had, I can't tell you how many scenarios. And I'm like, my righteous anger comes out and says, no, I'm a human being. You won't do this to me. I won't allow it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm already heading to the hills. When you said no, I was gone.
Yeah, I have a big streak of righteous anger. We are losing our morality. And this is why people have been told that any anger and all anger is negative. Because if you're a negative being, the last thing you want anyone to do is to stand up against you. No, you need to make them believe that you're a bad person if you have any anger inside of you. Well, of course we have anger. It's in our tool chest. We have it for a reason. It's so we don't get duped. It's so we don't get stumbled on. It's so we're not oppressed. And we have been so brainwashed to believe that we have to always obey and be good and sit down and take it. That this is why things have gotten as bad as it has. No one's standing up.
Mm. Yeah, it's that.
Is that for me?
Oh, I didn't do that.
No, I'm joking. I'm just saying. I just yeah.
We have. I'll tell you. I'll explain it. We had a.
I'm a waffler, Sonia. So we secret code for Joe to tell me to shut up.
Was to do this, but you've been.
And
really...
if she went like that, I was really out of control.
Really?
No, I just didn't want to hijack it. I just, I just wanted to play my part. So I was a bit nervous. I've only been on, if this goes on YouTube, this will be my second time. So, but I'm very, very humbled and grateful for this experience and opportunity. You're my galactic girls.
Aw.
Thank you. Well, I think that's a great place, a good place to end this this chat. Thanks, guys. We've covered a lot of stuff as you know, like we did last time. This is fantastic. And anybody's got any questions for us? This will probably not go on YouTube. It will probably end up on BitChute. So I'll put a link on YouTube for people to have a look at. All right. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks, Darren.
Okay, thanks, Joe.